Welcome to the Youngpreneur podcast, a show for young and aspiring entrepreneurs who want to start or scale their own business. Our podcast is dedicated to helping young people find a community and resources to start and grow their businesses. Hosted by Charlotte Enever and Linda Reed Enever, our passion is seeing the future of business grow.
Hey, welcome to the Youngpreneur Society podcast. I'm your host, Charlotte Enever, and joining me today is Rachel Gallagher. Rachel, would you like to give us an introduction to yourself and your business?
Hi, my name's Rachel Gallagher. I'm Internationally United Ms. Australia Pacific, and I'm also the founder of About Your Clothes, which is a sustainable fashion education platform.
Fantastic. What inspired you to start your business?
So I have a very interesting career background. I actually started out as a high school English and history teacher. And then I figured maybe teaching in a classroom for 30 years wasn't really for me. Kudos to the people that do it because it's a very difficult job. So I thought, I'm just going to go out into the world and give different things a try. So I did. I ended up getting into fashion modeling, and I did that for a couple of years. And then we had, unfortunately, the pandemic, which brought a bit of an end to that for a while. And I thought, okay, how am I going to combine my love of English and writing with my fashion knowledge that I've gained over the last few years? So I became a fashion writer, and that's really how I got exposed to a lot of sustainable fashion knowledge. And then I just decided to start my own business educating people about sustainable fashion, because the amount of questions that I would get all the time from people about what does this mean? What does sustainable fashion actually cover? So I just decided to create a hub where people can go to learn more about their clothes and also about the impacts environmentally and on people across the globe.
I've had a look and it looks amazing.
Oh, thank you. I'm so glad you like it.
I think I'm going to be spending a lot of time reading there.
Excellent. That's what we like to hear.
So how did you start out in the business world?
Okay. I think I've always had a little bit of an entrepreneurial spirit. And I think as well, I've always been drawn to things that are a little bit experimental and outside of the box. I'm quite creative. Being a writer, you do have to have some sort of level of creativity for that. And I think that's really just transferred over into my interest in building a business. But I don't think that it's a typical sort of business where you think about what are the bottom lines, how much money am I making from this product? For me, it's more about how many lives am I touching with what I do and the meaning behind what I do as well and how it can help other people. So I think it really does marry very well my experience as an educator and then my experience in the fashion industry to go out and actually help people understand more about the world that we live in.
Yeah, well, from what I've seen what you do, it's amazing. It's definitely actually educating people. So I think it's really good that you do have that background. So how has your experience in the modeling industry shaped your understanding of sustainable fashion, and how do you use your platform to educate others on its impact?
Yeah, definitely. So modeling is a very interesting world. It's not one that I ever thought that I would get involved in, but I'm so glad that I did, because it's given me a different perspective on how the world works and also consumption. So consumption of clothing mostly, and why people do that, what motivates people to do that. So I think that it's really given me quite an interesting insight into how things work and why they work the way that they do. And my impact is really about trying to help people understand why things are the way they are and how we can change them for the better, not just for us, but also for people who will come in the future after us. Because at the moment, we've got enough clothing on the planet to dress the next 6 generations of people, which is insane. I didn't really know that when I was doing modeling. So when I discovered that, I thought that's an incredible amount of clothes, incredibly scary amount of clothes. And people need to know about this. And the impact that we might leave could be a legacy that the next generation has to deal with. So how can we nip that in the bud before it becomes a really big problem?
Yeah, that's a massive number.
Yes, it's huge. It's really scary, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. My personal favorite thing to do is go up shopping.
I know, me too. Well, actually, what I'm wearing today, which is this lovely green blazer, is thrifted. So I think about 85% of my wardrobe now is thrifted.
Yes, it's fantastic. I like getting pretty much everything. My parents have always gone thrifting. Most of our furniture is also thrifted.
Oh, I love that.
So in your role as Miss Australia Pacific, how do you encourage women to take leadership in addressing the environmental impact of fashion?
So Something that's really important is education. Obviously, I come from an education background, so it's very important to empower people with knowledge so that they can become leaders. That doesn't necessarily mean that to be a leader that you have to be the next prime minister or even, a pageant queen. You can be a leader in your own community, in your own household, in your own friendship group. So giving people practical skills and tips and also knowledge so that they can go away and make a difference in their own life. And all that hopefully would add up to, a really big ripple effect. That's really what the aim is. So the way that I do that is I run a lot of sustainable fashion workshops. There's quite a few topics that I cover in that. One of the workshops is just a general sort of introduction to sustainable fashion, what it is, why it's like that, and what can be done about it. And then the other one that I've also developed is a styling workshop, because I do volunteer as a stylist for an organisation called Dress for Success. And I've been doing that for about 2 years now. So yeah, a very long time, which I've had a lot of great experiences with that. And so I want to pass that knowledge on to other people so they have practical solutions that they can have in their everyday life to make a difference in their own way. It doesn't have to be something crazy and great. It can be something, the simplest thing can make a big difference.
Yeah, that's some great motivation. On that note, how do you stay in touch with that motivation?
I think I'm just a very dedicated person inside. I think I've always been that way. I've always been very inclined to act on ideas that I have, being a creative person. I think that's part of it as well. So it's a natural thing that I lean towards. But I also get that from surrounding myself with people who are just like me. So at Internationally United Miss, it really does attract a certain type of personality, very ambitious women. And throughout my journey as Internationally United Miss Australia Pacific, I've been able to meet people in Australia as well as people who live overseas who are part of the pageant that I've met up until this point. And so in July, I'll actually go and meet them, and we'll be able to talk about the things that are important to us and how we advocate for different things that we want to achieve in the community.
That sounds like so much fun.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to it. We're on the countdown now, so it's just under 2 months.
Yeah, it's not too far away.
Yeah.
So how do you plan to use your international platform to raise awareness about the importance of sustainable fashion and its impact on our planet?
I've got a 12-month program that I've put together for myself. And within that, I'm really focusing on building my business, where I will be offering more educational experiences, but also bringing other things in, like clothing swaps. I recently met a really cool individual who runs her own clothing swaps, and that's been really inspiring. And I actually met her through my title as Internationally United Miss Australia Pacific, because she invited me to a couple events. And that's really inspired me and opened a lot of doors and new ways of thinking. So that's something that I'm planning on implementing into About Your Clothes, as well as lots of other things, from workshops through to podcast series, because I've got my own podcast as well, where I really highlight a lot of people's stories from all around the world, from inside the fashion industry, which I think we don't get a lot of view into a lot of the time. It's quite difficult and secretive sometimes. So I really want to bring those stories to the fore, and I want people to experience that knowledge for themselves firsthand.
As someone who is interested in sustainable fashion, I'm going to be looking into that a lot.
Oh, good. I love that. You can always come to a workshop. I run them every month or every couple of months, depending on interests and everything. So I'll send you a link.
Yeah. So how do you find building these workshops, promoting them, creating them, and even those programs that you do?
Yeah. So do you mean in terms of, do I find it difficult, or?
Yeah. How do you go about it? Yeah. Do you enjoy it?
I do. I absolutely love it. It's so much fun. I've been a teacher for, a long time now, pretty much my entire adult life. So I know how to build a really good educational experience for people. And I really like to be very empathetic when I do that. I like to take feedback and critique about, I was really interested in this part. Can you develop, this part a little bit more so I understand what you're trying to express to me? So I really like to involve other people's perspectives in what I do. So that's really fun. And I like to make it memorable for people. I want people to take away something meaningful from that experience and to go out and impact the world in the way that they choose to do that.
Yeah, I can definitely see how that would happen. I'm already taking away so much, actually. How do you maintain a work-life balance? You seem like a very busy person.
Oh, very busy. Oh, it's very busy. Yes, yes. Yeah. So I think it's about time management. And as an educator and coming from that high school teaching background, I'm very good at time management and I've been doing it for a long time. At the moment, I'm actually also doing a diploma in sustainability while having a full-time job, while doing this pageant and while building About Your Clothes. So it is difficult, not going to lie, it is difficult, but I think it's about prioritizing what's important to you, and having those time management skills from teaching has really helped me to be able to see what's important to me and how I'm going to go about addressing that.
Yes, great advice, because time management is hard.
It is. To-do lists, highly recommend.
Yeah. What's your favorite part of running a business?
I think it's the people that I get to meet, to be quite honest. I'm very community focused, I would say. So part of something that I love about Internationally United Miss is that it has a really big community service aspect to it. But also in my own business, I try to take that feeling of being part of a larger community, a part of something bigger than yourself. And I've met some really amazing people recently. And one of my greatest achievements, I think, is running a workshop for the United Nations Environment Programme for their International Day of Zero Waste a couple of months ago. And I only started doing my workshops in December of last year. And I had people attending that online workshop. It's online because we want it to be global. I had people attending that from all over the world. And that was a huge shock to me because I didn't realize that people would be so interested. But I think as well, you have to be confident in knowing that what you're doing is worthwhile.
All sounds really important. I'm just so happy with what you're doing. I'm so glad you came on the podcast so I can see it all. Was there a particular moment or anything that sparked this passion in you for sustainable fashion?
I don't think it was one specific event. It was more a build-up over a long period of time. When the lockdowns first happened during COVID, there were a couple of different online talks, I guess, run by really big fashion industry heavyweights. And I went along to a couple of those. You know, they were in American time and I was obviously in Australian time, so it's 3 a.m. and I'm sitting there and I'm just thinking about all these new ideas. And I think the biggest thing was that I started to ask questions, which I'd never asked before. And that really inspired me to try and think of answers that I'd never thought of before as well. So that's kind of where it started. It started with that curiosity and asking questions, which I think as an educator is something that you try and encourage other people to do as students. So as someone, you know, who has been a teacher, having that experience of that moment of questioning something and how can you solve that in a creative way, or how can you contribute to it in a creative way, was a really interesting moment for me. And that's really like the catalyst of where About Your Clothes originally came from.
Yeah, that is amazing. Like amazing whole motivation, inspiration, everything.
If you were to do something with sustainability or sustainable fashion, is there anything that you want to know in particular?
I think actually a lot of us, I feel like especially Australians, because it's all the way on the other side of the world from everybody else. And it is 3 a.m. every time something's on. We don't know how to get into sustainability.
Yeah,
So
it is difficult. It's hard to find information about the fashion industry because for a very long time it wasn't very democratized. And that's what I found with when I entered the fashion industry. There wasn't a lot of democratization of fashion at that time. It was moving towards that. And now with, I guess, younger people coming through and really starting to contribute to the industry more, you can see that it's starting to become more accessible, which I love, because sustainable fashion at its core is meant to be an inclusive experience of all people from all backgrounds, from all countries, and from all perspectives. Because really, at the end of the day, we all wear clothes. And the outcome of sustainable fashion affects all of us all over the world. It affects the environment and it also affects the people who make our clothes as well. So a lot of people do just limit it to, environment, are my clothes polluting the planet? But there's also the people who make our clothes and the stories that go into that as well, really important to understand, because we're all really connected by our clothes. We have no idea how many pairs of hands have actually touched each piece of clothing that we wear. So I think it's just important to put it in a global perspective rather than looking at what's hanging in your own wardrobe.
if you were talking directly to one young person doesn't even have to be a young person, how would you recommend that they get into the sustainable fashion industry, even just learning about it?
I think self-study is really important. That's how I learned a lot about sustainable fashion. I love to read. I'm a huge nerd. I love to read. I love to watch documentaries. On my website, I've actually got a resources section where I've collected heaps of different resources from mostly all over the internet, because I find that's the easiest way to access things now. It's the most democratic way to access things, really. So there's a list of documentaries, there's books, there's papers, there's websites that track sustainability legislation and all that really interesting stuff that you need to understand to formulate a good idea of what sustainable fashion is and how it works. So that's something you can do. You can pop onto my website. But I think also looking for people who have a genuine interest in sustainability, whether it's, your local DIY person or a friend that really likes to repair clothes and learning how to repair your own clothes. So there's lots of different ways that you can get involved in sustainable fashion. You don't necessarily have to just go out and buy a new piece of clothing with a tag that says sustainability attached to it. There's so many different ways.
Yeah, that is some great advice. I would like to thank Rachel Gallagher for joining me on this episode of the podcast. I'm sure our listeners have taken away many lessons and insights from you. I definitely have. This has been a great episode. I also want to thank our listeners for listening to this episode and supporting the podcast. You can find out more about Rachel and her business at aboutyourclothes.com.
Thank you for listening to the Youngpreneurs podcast. Like this episode? Remember to subscribe and leave us a review. And join us in the Youngpreneur Society, a community for young entrepreneurs to explore the world of business. youngpreneursociety.com